Hello and welcome. Middle 8, Highland Open, 2024. Our MPO feature card of Edward Ward, Adrian Chevalier, Josh Menne, Chris Reliford. We've already gotten through our brand new 6 temp holes, our first 2 traditional holes, and we are stepping up to super iconic hole 3 as we see Adrian Chevalier has a 1-stroke lead over Edward. Hole card under par right now. Hole 3 is 650 feet. Actually played as the easiest hole this year, but don't worry, we'll fix that next year. Is a pretty hole, iconic, throwing downhill, hill to the left, so there's no OB left, but there is OB right. There's OB by the basket. As long as you don't turn over this first shot, all you really want is as much distance as possible. Adrian in past years has had an eagle look on this hole. The weather's not really helpful for that today, though. Little windier than it looked. It wasn't too bad, but it was definitely cold. The ground was a little slippy. As you can see, he did not quite get all that. That's going to be fine. Or not. He's quite in the bush. Let's see what Josh can do. Nice little rip. He'll have pretty flat footing, so that will work out just fine. Chris, a big thrower. Let's see if he's going to try to go big here. That was nice. I don't think he quite got the turn he wanted, but that's still pretty far. Josh puts it up there. That'll be circle 1. Adrian, Team Castoplast. I'm guessing this is going to be Berg X right here. Catches on the tree, leaves him short.
Stop it.
Chris, pretty aggressive eagle bid. Edward shot's way up here as well. Not a bad bid. Stays close. Can Adrian clean up his birdie? It's like 45 feet, maybe 50. What a bid. Did not quite stick. Josh from Partial Forest cleans up the bird. Chris with the comebacker trying to do the same. Again, a little low. He's just a little low on a lot of these putts today. It'll still be a par. Birdie for Edward. So we're going to see birdies out of Josh and Ed, pars out of Adrian and Chris. However, like I said, that was the easiest hole on the course this year. So you don't really want to be walking away with a par. As we head to the 10th easiest, proof that length doesn't necessarily make it hard. This is an island hole. Yes, we did get an island waiver for this. There is a drop zone to the left. You have to cross this first cart path, but stay short of the second cart path. We moved the basket back just a little bit, so it is real close to that back cart path this year. You can go forehand, you can go backhand. I go forehand every year, and you know what? I think the backhand hyzer is the play. As Edward puts that solidly close. Chris going the forehand. Little low, little turned. That's inbounds. I'll throw myself under the bus here. I turned mine over right into the grass. So I was well OB on this hole. Drop zone candidate. I don't think you're going to see that out of Adrian. Looks like he's going the hyzer. If you look at last year's footage, he played this hole pretty well. Berg or Berg X. Big skip to the circle. Chris going the forehand. And it gets back in bounds. He'll be about the same place as Josh, who had no problem cleaning up the birdie from downtown. See if Chris can do the same. Just falls out. No problem. Little nub action. As long as it stays in, it's all good, right? So, again, bunch of birdies, one par. Adrian and Edward all the way up to 5 under already. This is the 6th hardest hole, 420 feet. I believe there was only one birdie this year. Plenty of bogeys, well uphill. There is out of bounds all the way on the right, all the way on the left, so you have to keep this in the fairway. It is a wide fairway. But to get the full distance, you want to throw a shot that turns a little. And most of these players are a little too savvy for this. There was a little bit of a headwind, so I think most people were stabling up, which is going to cost you the distance when you're trying to throw uphill 420 feet. Chris with a rip.
Oh, what a noodle.
Again, if you watch the front 8, we do have some amateur camera people, not my usual work, so we did miss Edward's drive there. As you can see, he's got about 50 or 60 feet. Puts it up there. Good bid. That'll be a cleanup par. Long bid from Adrian, just a little right. See if Chris can cash one. He's been having a little trouble today. This would be a good one to get him going. Again, a little short. So far, we are collected back into the left of that basket. I'm thinking we must have missed an upshot also. That just spits right through. That was nearly perfect. That was pro side. Maybe a little hard, but it didn't look like it. That's the biggest downside to using temporary baskets. I also got to say, I don't love having dynamic disc baskets. But when you're setting up a temporary course, sometimes you take what you can get. We super appreciate Ethan Simmons. He provided the baskets. Hole 6, 4th easiest. This was the CTP hole this year, so if anybody played cash CTP, this was the hole. Double Mando, creek behind, OB sidewalk right, It is a tricky little technical shot. Only 200 feet. You can go backhand, you can go forehand. Kind of a theme where we're just testing your skill. And that is gorgeous. And that earns Edward a spicy replay. Just floats it in there. Right by the basket. Josh goes the backhand route. And that's coming in hot. And that is actually OB long. This looks like a nice little forehand out of Chris. Adrian also going the overstay beforehand. And a spicy replay? How close did this end up? Little bit of metal. That's pretty good. Another unfortunate spit. I looked maybe a little low on right. Drop in from Edward and Adrian. No problem with the birdie for those guys. Got Josh trying to clean up the par. No problem. Two birdies, two pars. Through 12 holes in this tournament, we are nearly halfway done. This hole played as the easiest hole every other year, so we made a move. This basket used to be in front of the trees. We moved it back behind the trees, and it quickly went from being birdied by almost every player to being birdied by just a lot of players. It's much harder, much more technical. Fun shot. Pretty little window. Lots of guardian trees, as we are seeing already. Really, this straight at it, maybe even skipping shot, I think, is the play. In practice, I saw quite a few things work. I saw people forehanding right at it. Saw a couple people try to go dunk in hyzer. Despite it being 200 feet downhill, you kind of want to throw something a little faster, like maybe not a putter. Mid-range is a good play, I think. But there's just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff, a very specific window. You got to keep that drive kind of low despite the downhill. And a lot of places you end up with just a funny little putt. I'm not sure if you can even see the basket there. But that'll par.
There's some really cool mushrooms up here that I just took a video of.
Looks like Adrian is our last hope. Can we get a birdie on this hole? And again, a little low, a little weak side. And this is going to be a star par for our pro division. Glad I didn't curse Chris there for a second. I was worried that was going to stick and fall out. Pars all around. Hole 8. Long pad is 340 feet. This is really a huge forehand or a big turnover. It really depends on what the wind is doing that day. You're actually teeing off from about the same plane as the basket. The hole goes downhill, then back up. You just got to beat this big old tree. That'll be a long putt. Adrian, big forehand. Ended up somewhere. Looks like we're going 3 for 3 on forehands so far. Chris plays fast. Goes the turnover. That looks pretty good. We'll have to see what ended up happening there. So you see Josh is off the top. Had the one. Edward looks maybe around circle's edge. Maybe a little farther. So far today, we are seeing a lot of Circle 2 looks, not a whole lot of Circle 2 sticks, but we see Chris, that turnover shot worked just about perfect. No need to make the Circle 2 when you park the hole. So we got the birdie out of Reliford, pars for everybody else, as we head into the second hardest hole, and maybe one of my top 3 favorite holes. This is a double Mando, 340 feet. Every year this plays either the second or third hardest. There is out of bounds left, out of bounds long. And the Mando is about 150 feet in front of the tee pad. So it's not right there. You have to clear it, but it is a downhill, low ceiling shot. So there's just a lot of technicality going on here. If you can hit this straight like this looks like, the disc will just work its way to the basket. The hard part is beating this gap. If we didn't have the double Mando, people could probably take a big old hyzer, but that's why we've got this Mando. Adrian catches the ceiling. That just drops down. That'll be fine. It's not what you want, but it's better than missing a Mando. Josh going the forehand. I like the forehand play. That seemed fine. Nobody's super close today. Oh, and Adrian coming in hot. Out of bounds creek. Well, Chris actually ended up out of bounds left. Did not realize that's his disc way over there. That must have got a big skip on its way down. And a little hot on that upshot too. So he's going to be throwing 5 from about 25 feet. Haven't seen that. Josh says, no, thank you. Nothing doing. Is Edward scared? We've seen 2 shots out of bounds already. Looking dead at the basket. And so we are seeing why this is one of the hardest holes Good cleanup from Chris. Stop the bleeding. That's a missable putt. Adrian
Nice
receiving
stretch,
a little help from the help. Good cleanup. Bag on. This is risky. 15 holes done. This is the last hole of the middle 8. 11th hardest. Again, 230 feet, just a technical little uphill, but there is out of bounds right behind the basket and a lot of trees between here and there. On paper should be easy, but there's a lot of things you can just do wrong. Every year I take the forehand. I went way long this year. I'm starting to think this backhand is the play. That looked pretty good. That ought to be putting. Josh likes the forehand line. If you go overstable forehand left side, you should be able to beat the trees and skip up. Beat the trees being the hard part. It's hard to gauge how fast to throw here because you have to get up the hill. But the out of bounds comes into play very quickly. Adrian finds his way back in. That should be a long look from Chris. That should be safe. You could not be more directly behind a tree. Oh no. And he collects himself another out of bounds stroke. See if Adrian can get the birdie. He has struggled on this hole in the past. So that's some nice redemption there. The 2 out of Chevalier. And at this point, we have the unspiciest moment ever in Bobby Jeter coverage. We missed all the rest of the putts. Again, very amateur crew. Here we see where everybody's standing. My apologies. But we are through 16 holes. The final stretch is by far the hardest stretch of holes, and it's going to be a doozy. So come on back, will ya? It'll be spicy.